What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? Want to thank you guys for supporting me. Yes, I am back with another live. Y'all know the routine right now. I got like multiple platforms going. But since YouTube is the first one to load, I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all the lives only stay permanent on YouTube. So eventually, everybody else's lives disappear, but these lives always stay. So I know. Y'all like, hurry up. And you're right. I'm hurrying. One, two. This is the fastest I've been able to make a live go live. Thank y'all so much for your love and support. Welcome if you're on my other platforms. Thank you. One more, and then we getting started. We getting started. So even though I told you, nope. Although I love my boy, y'all probably know which one that one was. All right, everybody, what's up? This is your boy Isaiah David Paul, and welcome to my live. Today, I will be talking about universal anchor characters, and this is where I'm going to teach and talk about you guys being able to create these characters for your books. Again, this is part of my Why Did I Write These Books segment. So, thank you for all the love and support. Yes, please send me hearts, like, follow, subscribe, whatever platform it is you do what you got to do to show that you appreciate what it is I do. And thank you for all the love and support. I am going to move on because I am actually broadcasting this live, but for one particular program where I save all of my lives, you'll know where to find it. Just follow my handle name, it's the same everywhere. But today, if you guys got my message, I'm talking about universal anchor characters. And the first thing I want to say when we're talking about universal anchor characters is that your universal anchor characters do not have to be the main characters in your books. I get it. It's not what you were taught. Like if you were in any kind of creative finance, creative literary class, you were taught that if you start a series or you start a collection, you have one main character that's the anchor character. And I know some of you can probably name some of your popular ones, like Trey Macklin from Wahida Clark's Thug series, or Alex Cross from James Patterson's Alex Cross series. There's so many of them. But my anchor characters that I write in my books are main characters in some books and minor characters in other books. And I actually have today's featured anchor character is no other than Calvin Rice. I just dropped a book about Calvin Rice. Nothing is for nothing. Everything has a cost. This is the follow up to my classic Worth Fighting For. Um, and Calvin Rice has appeared in so many of my other books. Now, for those of you who've been following my literary career, I dropped this book in May, so it's available now wherever books are sold. But you can also find Calvin Rice in one of my best selling and somewhat controversial faith fiction novels, Broken But I'm Healed. Now, I know what y'all did. Y'all ran and looked at all the reviews when I posted the thumbnail. I got you. And I'm about to explain that too. But those are not the only books that I talk about Calvin Rice. Of course, in my nonfiction novel, which is what this live is an extension of. Um, Calvin appears in the revised version of This Little Game We Play, which is coming out later this year. If you are a follower of my teen series, I had a book called Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. And for obvious reasons, based on what we know now, I changed the title of that book. Calvin appears in many of the books in my Saints and Aints um, urban faith fiction series. So you guys get to see how he does when he tries to live the word of Christ after you know how he struggles with being a murderer in this book. So Calvin is dynamic in the sense that, yes, while he has two books that are officially his, or that I would like to call his, on multiple platforms. So I'm just going to spread these little books. So I'm not ignoring you. I see, trying to share, trying to share. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Even though Calvin is a main character, he appears as a minor character because sometimes he's meant to push certain stories along. So, like in Age Ain't Nothing But Number slash backslash This Little Game We Play, his one of his friends, or you later find out that it's his cousin Juan, he helps him deal with being homeless. So he's trying to be Juan's support system because he's one of the few family members that Juan has that wants to support him and help him overcome his situation and get into a better life. But in my faith fiction series, which includes the award-winning Soul of a Man series, by edited by Alyssa Gabriel. Shout out to you guys. I see some of my Alyssa Gabriel fans on here as well. Um, he's a minor character because he is a new member of the ministry. Side note, when I created that ministry, literary ministry at the time, that's what it was. Cal, I had these men that were supposed to represent the seven deadly sins. And obviously, if you read Worth Fighting For, you know what his deadly sin was. So, but I also wanted to show how people grow from that. And one of the things I love about all of my anchor characters, there's growth. You may meet them in one segment of my life or in one time period of their lives in one book, but by the time you get to another book, you find, oh, they're doing well. Oh, they've grown from this, or oh, they're in this stage of their development. So sometimes my characters don't always grow and be happy ever after. You kind of find out that they've moved on to other things. And one question I would like to answer, one thing I'd like to acknowledge is that some of my anchor characters know different characters through different means. So if we're talking about Calvin, here we go with these restrictions again. If we're talking about Calvin, you met him as a child in my team series, and you see him as a young man that is struggling to overcome some of his obstacles and deal with mental health issues that come with the consequences of his actions. But then when you get to him as an adult, at least in my faith fiction series, you find him struggling with infidelity in his marriage and how does he handle um, being married to a woman that may not have married him for love or faith. And those are the type of things that you deal with. Anytime you create a universal anchor character, whether they're the main character in your book or they're the side character or they're in between, depending on what book you're talking about, your characters should grow. They should not be. I know that sometimes in movies, and I guess sometimes in books, but mainly in movies, it's a running joke to see like the same character that might be doing the same dumb thing over and over and over again. But the reality is in books, you kind of want to see them grow. You want to see them get older. So, like, for example, my literary universe spans from the 1990s to the present day. So that is, we're going to say a 35, we're working with a 35-year time span. My boy shouldn't be 12 in 1994 and 2026. That's not supposed to be it. You know, he shouldn't be making the same mistakes. Now, if your characters are stuck in 1994, because and there are authors that do this, and I'm not knocking this by any means. You've written books that maybe a week passes by in a whole book, or smaller time frame passes by in a certain book, then yes, by all means, your 10-year-old Calvin that you wrote, and I'm just using my character as an example, your 10-year-old Calvin that you wrote about in 1994 better be the same 10-year-old calendar with some minor growth changes. um, if you're writing about a 1994 Calvin in 2026. So those are things you have to think about and consider and take in consideration when you're creating these characters. Like I've said before, when if you know my literary journey, I did not start out writing sequels, series. That was never my thing. Even though I was asked, "Oh, can you give me a book two for this, or can you get a book two to that, or can we get a sequel to this, or what happened to these characters now?" I was always the author that wanted to write standalones. Now that I've gotten into, I'll add a book to this series. I can write some series, I can write them together. Some I like to write one book one time, take a break, grow, learn, develop, or do some research because I may want my characters to do something else. Then come back and, oh, let them do something else. Whatever the case may be, that's what it is as far as making the characters grow. And so, if you are looking to create a Universal Anchor series and you know you want them to progress over books, of course, do your character outlines, research your characters, research what's realistic. Because one of the things I will tell you about Nothing is for Nothing, I even though I lived some of the things I wrote about in this book, I had to go back. I had to make sure that what I wrote about for the 1994-1995 school year actually happened, because guys have to remember we're 30 years removed from that series. And although I was about these guys' age when that this storyline takes place, sometimes memories do get hazy. They do get funny. Um, you know you like certain songs and they seem like you liked them all your life, and then when you actually go back and look, or better yet, hear from the primary source, which means you go back and you look at the actual printing of a, say we're talking about music, you look at the actual printing of the CD tape, you look at a Billboard magazine that was printed during that time frame, just as an example, you find that, oh, this song might not have came out in this time period. I had to reread Worth Fighting For while writing this book. I actually had to go back and reread this book while writing this book, because even though Calvin is turning 13 in this novel, he's a grown man in his early 30s in this book. And so I had to make sure that I didn't say anything about Martin, who's another one of my Universal Anchor characters. Um, I didn't say anything about Martin in this book that contradicts what I need to write in this book that was already in Worth Fighting For. So if you're somebody like me that writes your stories out of order, or your universes out of order, or your universe takes place in different time frames and time periods, that is something that you're going to have to think about and consider as well. So what I would tell anybody, if you're looking to write a series and you know you want X number of books in your series, you want this book to be in your series. I mean, not this book, but you want your series to be, say, a trilogy, you want a 7-book series or whatever it is, plan how you want your characters to grow, end up, and develop. Even though this book was written first and came out first, and this book is a nonfiction book, I had to make sure when I wrote this book, I actually published this book and were in production with this book at the time I was writing this. I had to make sure these two books are not in conflict. And the iconic or ironic thing when it comes to writing a literary nonfiction book like this one is that technically whatever in this I said in this book is what I'm bound by. So I will definitely, um, as I do my revisions, and I'll talk about print runs and stuff like that in future lives and future videos. But I'll definitely be going back and making sure that this book is solid and the truth. Because if this book's not right, then the rest of them aren't right, right? So I want to thank you guys for all the love and support. I hope you've learned something about universal anchor characters. I will be doing different themes with this universal anchor character sub list that I'm creating and talking about. I hope that this was educational for you. And once again, thank you for all the love and support. And thank you for joining my live. Y'all be good and blessed. Peace.